Hey, Larken Rose here. Today is Memorial Day, although this won't post until tomorrow, which reminded me of a certain thing, and then I was also reminded of that same certain thing yesterday when Amanda and I were watching Andor, which is pretty good. Stuff I could complain about, but pretty good. Rebellious and anti-authoritarian and fun stuff like that. But in that show, as in many dystopian-type portrayals, there's lots of people who know that the empire or the regime or the whatever it is nasty and horrible, but we better be quiet. You can't be critical. You can't say things out loud critical of the regime, because if you do, they single you out and they hunt you down, they kill you. And that's been the case under a number of tyrannies. It's still the case today in North Korea. Still the case in a lot of places to lesser degrees, including in the US. So I wanted to make this video. Normally I'm talking about how I want people to think differently. This is actually for the people who are already voluntarists and already recognize, at least to one extent or another, the evils done by the ruling class and the military-industrial complex and the all manner of other unjust authoritarian BS. Because in those movies, and like Andor and a bunch of movies like that, all the people being quiet. And nobody dares to stand up and say, yeah, this is bogus, you guys suck. Because they think they're going to be singled out. But there is a massive amount of power that tyrants get from training their victims to not say out loud what they all, or at least most of them, know to be true. So you have all these people where, yeah, we all like the empire. No, you don't. None of you do. You all think they're oppressive psychos. The fact that you won't say it out loud is massively psychologically powerful. And it gives those in power a huge amount of leverage, even over the people who hate them and resent them and don't want them in power. Because all those people self-censoring, and they don't dare to say it out loud, and they're not sure who around them agrees with them, and they don't feel safe saying it out loud and finding out who agrees with them, because there might be somebody there to snitch on them. And when things get to a point that's that bad, it's time to shoot somebody. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. The day I don't dare to say what I think out loud, I'm going to be killing people. I'm going to be killing the people who are a direct threat to me if I say what I think out loud. Now, I don't expect that to happen anytime soon, but that's one of my lines in the sand. If I can't go out in the open and say, here's what I think about this crappy ruling class, regardless of who's in power, regardless of where I am, what country, I'm not going to quietly go along as quiet livestock. I'm going to start getting nasty. I'm going to start escalating things until I'm either dead or I dare to say what I think out loud. So, now, I don't expect that to happen in the US. I expect to keep being able to yap my trap and make fun of and condemn the evil crap done by the ruling class. So, don't think there's going to be a practical test of me saying that, and if you don't believe that I would do that, that's fine. Whatever. You don't have to. But here's the thing. If you don't say these things out loud, that is how you get this philosophical inertia. And I'll use the example of Memorial Day. So many people who know that the U.S. military is the biggest terrorist organization in the world, who know that the troops don't do a damn thing to protect our freedom. They never have. They're just hired guns for some of the worst people in the world who send them off around the world to go do evil things. That is what the U.S. military is. But so few people dare to say that out loud because, oh no, but look at all those patriotic Americans who will get mad at me. Okay, which is worse? You living in a place where you can and do say out loud what you think, and then some people don't like you and get mad at you, and then they say words in the other direction? Is that the worst case scenario? Or is the worst case scenario a world, one of these dystopian worlds that you see in movies and TV shows where nobody dares to say out loud what everybody knows. And so I don't just think, and you know, of course, people are trying to be polite and stuff, and okay, they, you know, lost some family member in the military in some war. You might not choose just then to jump up on the table and say, he was a pawn of the most evil psychos in the world. Okay, there's a little bit of tact and politeness. I mean, not when it comes to me. Well, okay, sometimes even I'm a little bit polite, and I will temporarily refrain from saying things if I don't think it'll do any good. But that's one of the best examples to me, because we have generation after generation of mostly young men suffering and dying, or not dying, just being either physically and or emotionally destroyed by seeing pointless combat in the war games of tyrants. And then people thank them for their service. Why? This is literally the same as if someone joined the Bloods and did some nasty things or got shot at and got, well, yeah, but they were fighting against the Crips, who are also bad. Thank you for your service. To who? Who do you think they're serving? Who do you think the U.S. troops serve? They serve the U.S. ruling class. Period. End of sentence. End of paragraph. End of the book. They don't serve anybody else. They don't protect freedom. They don't defend our Constitution. They all swear an oath to do that, and absolutely none of them do that. But, and of course, a lot of people fall for the patriotic brainwashing BS that says they're great and they sacrificed for us. No, they didn't. They died for a ruling class. And to not say that out loud, to me, is a way worse sin. Because there's going to be another generation of young men who go, wow, everybody says they're awesome if you join the army to be all that you can be, and you join up with the forces and bravely defend our country. If that's all the next generation of young twits hears, they're going to fall for it. They're going to get blown up or shot or maimed or psychologically destroyed and suffer from traumatic PTSD for the rest of their lives, because nobody dared to say, whoa, dude, do not do that. You're just signing up to be cannon fodder for frickin' psychopaths. That's what the military is. You're not defending us. You're not protecting our freedom. You're not defending the Constitution. You're just being a disposable hired thugs of some of the worst people in the world. And people like Henry Kissinger barely even hid that, the way he talked about the troops. But if all this propaganda goes unanswered, they're the brave men and women who are out there. No. They're people who sold their souls to mindlessly obey orders to do evil shit. That does not deserve praise or thanks. They aren't doing anything for you and me. They sure as hell aren't doing anything good for the people on the other side of the world they're terrorizing and blowing up on a regular basis. But to not say that because you're scared of what other people will think of you, and that's just one example. Every time you hear the statist bullshit and you don't counter it, it can be gently, it can be politely, it can be mad, it can be loud, whatever. Every time you don't counter the bullshit by stating the truth, regardless of whether people want to hear it, regardless of how they react, every time you do that, you are strengthening the state. You are helping with their propaganda. Every time the emperor's thug comes out to say, the emperor is totally wearing clothes. If you go, well, nobody dares to say it. I'm not going to say the emperor has no clothes. Are you going to say no? Every time you stay silent when that happens, you're just letting the lie sit there. When somebody loudly lies in front of you and you don't correct it, you're kind of an accomplice, at least sort of passively, because you knew it was a lie and you didn't say so. And that's what that... I mean, there may be some people who don't know the story. The emperor has no clothes. Have you heard that story? If not, look it up. Because it's always, I was going to say it's significant today. It's always significant because it's exactly about this. if everybody's too scared to say what they all know and what they all think, the impression that everybody gets is, I guess everybody believes this. I guess everybody believes that the troops are fighting for our freedom because nobody's saying they aren't. Now, more and more people today, including lots of veterans who know better, are saying, no, they're not. They're just falling for BS. They fell for the rhetoric and the propaganda, and now they're off being cannon fodder for no good reason, serving the interests of the worst people in the world. That's not good. Don't praise them for that. If you actually care about them, instead of praising them from doing something horrendously destructive and immoral, maybe try to talk them out of that. Try to talk them into, like, dropping your stupid uniform and gun, come home, actually be a productive member of society instead of a hitman for political psychopaths. That's the loving thing to do. That's the just thing to do. That's the moral thing to do. Remaining silent in the face of bullshit is not just, it is not brave, it is not moral, it is not helpful. But that's what most people do most of the time. Now, I use the example of the military just because Memorial Day just happened and it's all, the propaganda's all over the place. But there are countless examples of it. Now, I see progress in almost every single example. So I'm happy that more and more people do dare to speak out. And that's actually a very significant indication of the fact that humanity really is moving in the right direction, despite the ridiculous clown show we're living in at the moment. So what are some more examples of things that almost everybody knows, but lots of people don't dare to say out loud? Cops suck. They don't protect and serve us. They protect and serve the ruling class. They're a bunch of power-happy parasites. All of them suck. The best cops, the very best cops, are the ones who merely turn a blind eye and make excuses for the evil crap that their fellow gang members do. That's the best they can say. Because they're not it's just a bad apple. Where are the good apples arresting the bad apples? Why doesn't that ever happen? Oh, because you're all freaking cowards whose loyalty is to your gang, like every other gang. You don't really give a shit about truth or justice. You don't even care about the law you're supposed to enforce. I mean, cops don't even know the law 99% of the time, but they also don't care about it. Because when their fellow thugs in blue break the law all over the place, which they constantly do, and every single cop knows it, when they passively let it happen, they don't do anything about it. They don't say anything about it either. Yeah, you're not a good cop anymore. You're an accomplice, at least passively, by letting evil happen, and you didn't do anything and you didn't say anything. That is all cops. That's the best. That's the best you can hope for from a cop, is that he won't personally participate in robbing and lying and framing people and beating up innocent people and being a violent thug. He'll just quietly make excuses for it and cover it up when his fellow gang members do it. He sure as hell won't go arrest them for it. Good luck waiting around for that to happen. So the cops suck. Now, more and more people today dare to say the cops suck. And of course, the state is pushing out the propaganda constantly of the brave men and women in blue who serve us. And no, they frickin' don't. And it's so refreshing to see how many people now, under the bullshit propaganda like that, say, you don't serve me. You're all power-happy thugs. You're also frickin' cowards. Like on the very rare occasion where cops storming in like they do in the movies to save the day would actually be useful, you hide outside like a bunch of frickin' cowards, because that's what you are. Now, if there's some unarmed guy in the street not immediately bowing to your every whim, you'll bravely beat the crap out of him because you have nothing to fear from him. But the moment there's actually danger, like, there's an active shooter in this school, quick, call in the cops so they can hide across the street behind their cars like a bunch of frickin' cowards. That's what they are. And the more people who know that dare to say it, the more the propaganda falls apart. Police are enforcers of the ruling class, period, end of story. They don't serve you, they don't serve me. They're literally paid with money stolen from us, whether we want to pay for it or not. And their job is to violently impose the will of the politicians onto the rest of us. That is what law enforcement means. Now, Sometimes they're going after bad people because every once in a while the law happens to match morality, like maybe don't murder people. That guy murdered somebody, we're going to go arrest him. Okay, once in a blue moon, the thugs with badges use force against somebody where it's actually justified because that other person's being an aggressor. Vast majority of the time, the cops are the aggressors. Oh, you didn't have the right sticker on your car, so I'm going to flash my lights, which is a threat of violence. If you don't pull over, I will keep bringing in more of my gang members and we'll make you pull over, and then very unpleasant things will happen to you. That's what they do. That's what they actually are. They're road pirates. They're thugs. And lots of people know that. But even among the people who know that, lots of people won't say it. Now, one of the advantages of the internet, it's a disadvantage too, is the anonymity it gives people. So lots of people who don't dare to stand up and go, here's me, here's my face, here's my voice, cops suck. They don't want to do that, but under some random made up name, under a comment, they'll say, yeah, cops suck. I'm scared of what people would say to me or maybe do to me if I said this out loud, but at least I can do it anonymously in these comments. So you can see a lot of that, even from people who wouldn't dare to say it in person. I think it's important to say it in person because that anonymity takes away a lot of the power of it. And the funny thing is, whenever I bash the troops by saying, you don't protect and serve Americans, you don't do anything to defend the freedom of Americans. You literally work for the gang that is the only significant threat to the freedom of Americans, which is their own government. The military works for that. Like, pretending they protect our freedom is as dumb as pretending like the mafia goons who smash kneecaps, they're protecting the freedom of the people whose kneecaps they smash. That's the actual analogy. Whenever I do that, some people go, I dare you to say that to a veteran. I have, and I will. The troops don't do a goddamn thing to protect freedom. And if you're so unstable, you're going to violently attack me for saying something true. Okay, we'll see how that goes. Maybe I'll be dead. Maybe I'll be dead. Maybe whatever. But I'm not going to self-censor just because of this weird, gross, demented, indoctrinated peer pressure coming from a grand total of 0 people who know how to think for themselves. Nobody who thinks for themselves is saying, the troops defend our freedom. Nobody. That is an idea that the only reason anybody will ever believe it or ever say it is because they were indoctrinated into believing that cult bullshit. Because it bears no resemblance to reality, just obviously. What freedom of mine exactly was some random guy in a turban in a cave on the other side of the world? What freedom was he going to take away from me if you didn't go over there and blow up his family exactly? How is that defending my freedom? And people know this, and thankfully more and more people are daring to say it. So yeah, troops work for the ruling class. Police work for the ruling class. They don't give a shit about you. They don't give a shit about freedom. They are the biggest threat to freedom. They steal more than all other crooks combined, not including taxation. And watching the evolution in people daring to say things out loud is actually inspiring. It makes me rather optimistic. And that's, as funny as it is, that's the most positive thing that I think the Trump clown being added to the circus accomplished, is a lack of civility and respect when talking about politicians. Because none of them deserve respect, including Trump and all his fellow stooges. For a long time, for much of my life, you speak with reverence of the president and congressmen and, those, your honor and blah, blah, the honorable blah, blah, blah. Now it's you lying sack of shit. This crooked political parasite over here. That's actually progress. Because this weird fabricated notion that these parasites are like these noble representatives we should look up to, it was always a lie. And the thing is, if everybody believes the lie has power. If nobody believes the lie, not only does it not have power, it has negative power. Because if the ruling class comes out and go, we're representing you, and everybody goes, no, you're not, you lying sack of shit. Like, the moment we could disobey you and get away with it, we will, because you all suck. Like, for them to attempt propaganda and have it blow up in their face is worse than if they just said, well, we're a gang of thugs and we boss you around and we take what we want. Screw you. Which would be the honest thing for every politician to say, Democrat and Republican. That's how they view you. They view you as livestock. They treat you as livestock. They're not going to say that out loud, and they don't want you to say that out loud. So say that out loud. Because actually describing reality and making it a point to do that, especially when the lie is being repeated, whether by the actual propaganda machine or just people who fell for that bullshit. Correct it. And you might be like gentle and nice if it's just somebody, well, don't the troops fight for our freedom? You could sort of nicely say, no, they serve a ruling class and they murder and terrorize innocent people on the other side of the world. That doesn't do anything for our freedom. In fact, it makes lots of people hate Americans in general because of what the ruling class is doing. So yeah, maybe be gentle with the people who just fell for the BS. I wouldn't be gentle at all with the psychos spreading the BS. Like, army recruiters, you suck. You are shitty human beings. And I'm all in favor of people going up to recruiters and unrecruiting people on the way in. Really? You want to be cannon fodder and like die horribly or get maimed or psychologically destroyed, acting as a disposable pawn for the worst people in the world? Really? That's all you can be, dude? I think you can be more. Literally anything is more than that. Anything is better than being a violent thug for the ruling class. Like, there is no profession lower than that. Your job can be scooping dog crap off lawns, and you're still infinitely more worthy of praise and thanks than the violent thugs of the state. There, that'll be a good clip for people to share around. That's what I think of the frickin' troops. But the power in what people say and in what people hear is huge. And in these dystopian things, you see it. Nobody dares to say that out loud. What happens if all those people, in whatever the setting is, say, you know, you might kill us for saying this, you might oppress us, but we all know you suck. We all hate you. Even if we're not going to resist, even if we're not going to do anything about it, you suck, you're evil pieces of shit. You're going to do what you're going to do. Maybe we'll resist, maybe we won't. But no longer are we going to give you what Ayn Rand called the sanction of the victim and play along as if this is okay. Like, if you're going to be a robber, point a gun at me and say, give me your money. Don't say, taxes are the price we pay for civilization. Go screw yourself. It's a ridiculous, stupid lie. You're just thieves. You want to steal money from us because you like having money and power. The end. It has nothing to do with representing us or the price of civilization or any of that crap. And the thing is, here's the punchline. As I've said a bazillion times, the thing that matters is the mentality of the people. When the people believe in freedom, there is nothing in the world that will keep authoritarian empires alive. They are absolutely doomed. If people understand that they own themselves, authoritarian regimes are finished. And it may be ugly and horrible along the way. It may get violent. They may just fall over, whatever. But when the mentality of the slaves isn't the mentality of a slave anymore, slavery's done. They do not and have never had the ability to forcibly dominate a population that doesn't believe they have any obligation to bow and to obey. Which is why it's so freaking important to say this stuff out loud, regardless of how people respond, whether they like it, whether they agree, whatever. Because when you don't, you are allowing the slave think to sit there in the air and be what everybody hears. All the propaganda about the troops, about the cops, about our representatives representing the people and really taking care of them, and I'm going to fight for you. Bullshit. Every politician who's ever said that, bullshit. Everybody who seeks out a position of power from which they can rob and dominate you is doing it because they want to rob and dominate you. They're not trying to get power over you to serve you. Duh. And if lots of people were saying that on a regular basis, That's literally most of the challenge. Because then other people hear it. And they might even think about it. And they might go, yeah, I guess it is kind of dumb to think that somebody's trying to get authority over me for my benefit. That doesn't make any freaking sense. Just basic things like that when enough people hear it, enough people think it, enough people believe it, and then they say it too. And that is the entire battle that matters. The shootouts and revolutions, whether that happens or not, whether it needs to happen or not, that's secondary. That's a symptom. The thing that matters is humanity waking up from the mindset of slaves and subjects. And that happens by saying words. And when enough people actually believe in freedom and understand what it is and want it, nothing in the world is going to keep them down. So that's why it's so freaking important. Wherever you are, whatever the setting, whenever you hear the lie, say the truth out loud.